Okay, cool. So yeah, so first thing that you do anytime you log into a Roll20 game, at least for any of the games that we're gonna stream, you're gonna come under the cogwheel, go down, like scroll down and select I want to broadcast to others, nothing. I want to receive from others, nothing. And then change it to names only for the avatar size, and then hit reconnect. And then that'll make it so that you're not doing voice or video over Roll20, and that it's just showing these small, whatever's, the small avatar things instead of their whole things. And you'll do that on everywhere you log in, whether you're the GM or the player. Um, Unless, you're playing in a game that is using Roll20 video and voice, and obviously then you'll just want to like shoot yourself in the face because it won't be stable or ever good. So okay, so that's done. That's literally the first thing you want to do every time. Also, usually you want to adjust your master music volume level, though if you forget, you'll realize when it becomes important because it's always maxed out at the whatever when you first start the game. So if anyone ever plays any music, you'll die. Okay. So first things first. So on the left here we have I'm logged in as the dungeon master, and I have the player flag on the this map page. So that over here on the right as a player, that is all I can see. Um, so that's just whatever page we're on. So if I move it to here, as a player, I can see all this. This module is actually really nice because this token page that is done, I actually created a whole bunch of copies of this random battle map that comes with most modules, and I just pull over tokens, and I just keep tokens that I frequently use in here. Like all my player tokens I keep stashed in here so that I can easy like come over, copy paste, and move them to whichever map we need to be using. So it's kind of nice that they've done that for you. This is the only module I've seen that's like done that. Curse of Shroud doesn't do that. So they've got like tokens. So it looks like these are like actual tokens that you will for sure come across, and then they've got the random encounter tokens. So that's nice too that they've separated it out. So you can just come over here and be like, copy, and be like, aha, guess what? You're wandering along in the jungle, and this guy is now in front of you. Dun dun dun, roll initiative. And the person, the player over here, suddenly sees that, Or, what you can do is if they're already on that map, so let's say the player over here on the right is already on this map, and they're like, do, hi, I'm here. I'm just wandering along, and you're like, they're going to come across a random encounter soon. You can come over here to the GM layer. So there's 3 layers on every map page. Well, unless you have dynamic lighting from the Pro subscription, and then there's 4 layers. But by default, there's 3 layers. There's the map layer, the token layer, um, which is like any objects that are movable and all the tokens for monsters and players. Or there's the Dungeon Master layer. So I can come over here to the Dungeon Master layer, the GM layer, and I can go over here and I can copy a T-Rex. Oh, I need to switch back because this is on the token layer. And then I'll switch back. It like keeps what layer you're on from like page to page. So, okay. So I am on the token or the GM layer. I'm gonna paste that guy there, and see it kind of shows him a little, with a little bit of opacity. Is that it? A little bit transparent. Um, when it's on the GM layer, but the over here on the right, the player can't see it. So I can set up a whole encounter and get it all ready, and then just plop you guys in there, and you guys can't see anything that's going on my layer. And let's say like you walk up, you're like, oh, I'm gonna walk up over here and go right, and I'm like, shabam, there's a person there. or a T-Rex. So you just right click on it and tell it to go to which layer. Um, Here, we're going to do something fun. We're going to actually upload, let's say you need something that you don't have, like you want to add in a custom map, right? Or there's not a map in the module for an area that you want to go to, because there's not always maps for every single thing that you want. Did I hit create new page? Okay, so I created new page, and it's going to, of course, put it all the way here at the back. I'm going to just drag it up. And this gets really annoying when you're creating lots of pages. And I'm sure there's a better way to do it. Someone was telling me that if you hit shift up over and over and control at the same time or something, it'll move it over. And I was like, what? No. I'm just going to do this. I'll just do the long, slow drag. Okay, so we're going to name this random encounter. Or, you know what we'll do? We'll do a forest glade. Glade. We'll do forest glade. I'm going to show you how to do this. So, we will do, you want to go into your library, right? And you want to hit upload to get the map file. And let's go to my maps. I had a better one. There we go. Forest glade. And it'll take forever to upload. That's fine. So I'm going to drag this over now that it's uploaded. And you'll want to eventually, I actually do need to do some cleaning up because you can sort this all into folders. So like I've created these folders over here. And now that I've uploaded this, I would want to go ahead and drag this up into my outdoors folder map so that it's like if I need to find it again. Organization is a really good thing and you should embrace it. So I've uploaded this mistakenly onto the objects and tokens layer. And I want it to be on the map layer. So I'm going to right click on it and go to layer and map layer. And now I need to switch to the map layer so I can maneuver it. And I'll drag it out. And does this one have grids on it? Yes, it does. So since this one actually has line grids on it, one thing you can do is click on it. And you have to be on the map layer for this to show up as an option. And you can hit align to grid, right? And so what this does is it allows you to 3x3 grid cells. So what you need to do is you need to start it right there and you need to, oh, and I went outside the line a little bit, so it's not going to be perfect. I'll have to do it again. But I have highlighted 3x3 grid squares on the battle map that I uploaded. And it'll say, is that good? And I'll hit align to grid. It actually did okay. It actually did okay. I bet if we zoom out, it might get a little wonky, but you know what? That's actually good enough for me. So that's now aligned so that, because up here in these page options, if you click on your pages up here, bring down the page toolbar. So I can go up to the page settings for this page by clicking on this little cogwheel. And you can let's say I have a map that I want way bigger than what is allowed here. I can increase the map page size, so I can stretch it out even further. Or I can change, let's say I've got a map and it's I want it to actually be a little larger of an area. Does that make sense? Let's say I don't want that to really be like a 5-foot little cliff there in the glade. I want it to be much taller. I can change it so that each grid cell is actually 10 feet. So that when people use the measurement tool to be like, okay, how much feet do I have to travel? It's like, this is actually quite a large glade. Every grid cell is 10 feet. And you can change it even to hex and stuff too for really big maps. Though honestly, what I do after I've aligned it to grid so that the measurements are right, because right now I can click on it and I can be like, oh, yeah, so this all lines up. So there's 5 feet, 10 feet, now that it's aligned to grid. What I will do and this is just because I'm fussy, but so let's see here. Do I have my tokens? Oh, I haven't uploaded my tokens. So what I'll do is when you've got it set up so the grid is there, it's kind of nice because when you pull stuff over, oh, and see that one didn't work because it's a self-uploaded one. That one didn't either. Let me see if I can do it. It's supposed to, when you have grid enabled, pull them over at the proper size. But let's see if we've got... Ugh, what? What are those? No. Okay, so a Dragonborn Defender. Bring him over. See, again, he's huge. Why is he so big? I guess that's not too bad. Anyways, so as I'm moving these around, they will automatically snap into the grid. Does that make sense? I cannot, like, let's say I really want them to be right here. They can't. They've got to go in a square. And sometimes when I'm working with Control Z. That's why you want to be on the right layer. Uh, so in fact, I need to move these to the token layer. Once you've set things on the map, you want to get off it immediately because otherwise you end up messing up things like that. So I've moved those all back to the objects and tokens layer, and now I can mess with them. Like I can do all that and move them around, and I don't mess up my map layer that's now all placed in pretty. But yeah, so yeah, you make sure to pay attention what layer you're on. Especially when you're setting things up. Yeah, cause yeah, it's you want everything that's movable. Like anything that's gonna be background and no matter what is not gonna move, you want on the map layer. But anything that you might move, like sometimes I'll have bits of furniture on the token layer because like the players might move it out of the way, or it's like a you know something that's interactable, like a statue that like falls over, or something like that. I'll have that on the token layer so that I can move it, but otherwise everything's on the map layer so that it can't be messed with while I'm like moving things around and clicking things while we're in the middle of like an encounter. Um, so one of my things that I'm fussy about is once I've got it aligned to the grid, I will usually go in and disable the grid so that my characters don't snap to a thing. Because, like, let's say we're in a small little mansion right now and there's little walls and stuff, and people want to move their tokens, and it's like, I can't move right here. There's like a chair right here. I want to move right here, And it's like, nope, you've got to snap. So, what I'll do is after I align everything, I'll go in and just unclick enabled, and then you move them wherever the hell you want. It still works with measurements. Does that make sense? It still measures. Yeah. Uh, and like since you already aligned it to this size, the measurements will still all be accurate. Uh, but you'll no longer be locked to like it always has to be in the grid. You can just move the tokens wherever. And that's just my own personal fussiness. But I find it much better, like, when I move a token to a certain spot, I want it to go to that spot, not where the game thinks it should snap to. So that's just personal preference, but that's what I do. I align it to the grid, and then I disable the grid. So, okay, so now, and you don't have dynamic lining, so I don't really need to show you that. But let's figure, so we kind of covered uploading a map, aligning it to the grid, sending it to the map layer, and then pulling tokens over. One thing you may want to do, let's see here. Okay, this is where we're going to start playing around with your nice module, and you'll want to just delete this game and create a new one. So sometimes, let's say I have a werewolf, right? Or actually, what we'll do, let's go under, we're going to go under creatures and monsters, right? And let's say I have, do you have like some sort of, let's say I found, like, because when you pull these over, it's just using the like default Dungeons and Dragons, like Wizards of the Coast token, right? And sometimes I don't like that. Oh, let's pull it over so you can see what it looks like from the player. I'm going to pull my player side over so they can see. Also, by default, the health bars and names are hidden from the player. So they don't see that. So you can see on my right side that she's not seeing any of that stuff. And you can come in here and adjust it. I never do that because I don't run all that stuff in Roll20. Some people do. I never have. It's a whole other part of Roll20 that I haven't gotten into yet. I always just have people roll real dice and like, I have like my own initiative tracker and keep track of my own health of things and, usually track it in D&D Beyond. Um, but you could get into that. Now, so one of the things, like, let's say this is like a named NPC, right? Which you have up here. Um, let's bring over this person named Ashara. I drop it there. But like, let's say I want the players, like, they meet them and now they know their name, and I want them to be able to like remember their name. I'll click on the token as the GM and hit the cogwheel, and this represents the character Ashara. And I want to go under advanced and say the players, yeah, I want them to be able to see their name. And you can even set it so they can see the health bars and stuff too. But right now I can see the name. So now my player, they can see the name. Um, or now let's see. Let's say I want this Hellhound. Let's say I hate that token. I found a better token that I like and I've uploaded it. And we're going to call this guy our new Hellhound. So what I'll do is I'll come under the Hellhound monster. Which I've forgotten the alphabet now. Oh, okay. Um, and I will hit, and I'm going to close this. Wait, why is this so big? I'll hit edit. And I don't like that token anymore. I want from now on when I use the Hellhound always to use this token. So I'm going to hit remove and use selected token. So let's delete him. And now I can pull over Hellhound. Oh, it's always that guy. So like this is the Ankh-Egg, right, creature. I think it's a much cooler, more dynamic looking token than just a circle with a creepy bug in the face. Like it's like it's this whole thing. So I have this permanently set for Ankh-Eggs. Do you have content? Let's see. Wolf. Do you have it? Yeah. Okay, so Ankh. So if you have the compendiums, like I've got a lot of the monsters. Like I've got Mordenkainen's and Volos and a few other ones that have a lot of the monsters purchased in the Roll20 marketplace so that I can, yeah, well, so I did that, and you don't have to, but I did that so if there's a random encounter and suddenly I need a bug and all that stuff, I can just, oh crap, yeah, there's totally an Ankh-Egg there and they're gonna be like this, and I pull them over and they're there, and then now that I've pulled them over, they will show up in the game. Okay, so since I have the content, when I do this in like my games, it actually pulls them over with like a big, nice, pretty picture, and like the artwork for it, and as well as the like little circle token. But since I don't think you have it purchased, it just pulled over the stats, um, which is fine. But now I can actually. Why is this so huge? Click on that Ankh-Egg. I can hit edit, and I can use selected token. So now I've got Ankh-Egg, because I pulled it over, it added it under my journal, not just the compendium. So now it's part of my game, and I can drag it down here under creatures and monsters, and it's just a part of my game now. I can pull it over, and now I have an Ankh-Egg. with that token assigned. And I can even come in here just in case it didn't. Yep, it didn't. And I can hit, this represents Onkeg. It's kind of nice. It depends on how much of the Roll20 features you use, though. Like some people will click, hit this, and okay, he's gonna hit on the acid spray. So now, if you go under chat, you can see I cast acid spray, and that way the players can see it. Or I can just read it from my stats on my printed out thing, like, yeah, he casts acid spray. Or I can read it on my D&D Beyond from the encounter builder and be like, yeah, he casts acid spray. It really depends on how much you use all those built-in features, or if you're just using it for the virtual tabletop and the tokens and the maps. I started out just with the maps and the tokens so that my players could like see what was going on. And then I've slowly started like exploring the actual built-in features and things like that. I'm still learning. So that's tokens and monsters a little bit. And maps. The next thing you're going to want to do is players. So we've created the player area. And we're going to want to create, you click on it and say add character. And it's always going to give it some like made up name. And you can go in there and hit edit and give it, this is Luca's character. And that's what she's named now. So what I can do now is, now that Luca has, over here on the right, has logged in and joined the game. Like, you can't do this before they join the game. They have to join the game first for this next step. But now that she's joined the game and she's actually connected to it, I can hit edit and I can be like, let's have this show up in all players so they can all see the players. But this character can be edited by Luca, which is who this person is, LS, logged in as. And we'll hit save. So now, if I pull up a token, let's see, characters. Let's say Luca creates a fighter, right? She's going to be a fighter person. That's her character. She's rolled a level 3 fighter. I can go in here to the journal and I've uploaded whatever token. Like, I usually create tokens for you guys and then upload them and drag them over, but you can use these kind. There's a whole bunch of different kinds you can get on the marketplace. You can go out there and find them, just whatever you want. But then I can go in here and hit edit and use selected token. And it's set so that it can be edited and controlled by her. And it's got her name. It's in everyone's journals. So now Luca, the player, can come in here under the newspaper and be like, I can see my player. Here's my stuff. I can go in here and edit it, upload art. She's an orphan, like, and has a troubled past. Like, ta-da, character created. Um, Things like that. And then what I can do is, now that like you've given me, what you'll need to do is come in here, and you'll always need to make sure that the token is set to represent that character, because right now it's not set to represent anyone. So you'll want to come in here and find Luca's character. And you can click to show the name and make sure the players can see the names. So save changes. This is now set as representing Luca's character. So the game knows that token represents that character. So now, since you've given Luca permissions in the character sheet to be able to control that character, now Luca can come over, because Luca can't move any of these tokens, right? But now she can move that token. When she's like, okay, I'm going to move my character over here. and it's going to talk to Ashara. So that's how you do that. Assigning permissions for the thing. And like let's say someone's like, "Well, I really want an animal companion." Or like sometimes like when we're playing with Brian and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to cast my butterfly helper person." I don't have like a character sheet for the butterfly. Um, but like I'll just drag over a butterfly token. I'll just search for butterfly, and like find a token of butterfly in here, not in the journal. And oh, here's a butterfly. There's lots of free ones that you can find from the web, or there'll be like premium ones you can buy. But I'll be like, here's a butterfly. There you go. We don't have a character sheet for that butterfly, but I can come in here really quick and just give you control of that butterfly. It doesn't represent any official character because I haven't created any official character, but you have control of it now right there. So now, on the fly, she can move around that butterfly. So that's just kind of good for on the fly if they like, yeah, because there's always some random, like, I'm going to spawn 5,000 bats, or something like that. Like, you can give them control of, like, a token on the fly for them to move. And it doesn't have to represent an already created character. I mean, if you wanted, you don't even have to create character sheets. You can literally just uh, drop tokens and assign people control of them and be like, these are your characters. But the problem with that is that you're always going to have to copy and paste them over to each map. Or every time you switch maps, you're going to have to hold on, put the tokens in there, and then go into each one and assign controls. It just, yeah. So, like, it's much easier if you just assign, or if you actually create the character sheets, even if you don't use all the features, just because it's like the kind of the home base for the controls. Like NPCs, yeah, you can. So lots of times, I in Curse of Strahd, Arena's an NPC that like follows them with the whole thing. So what I'll do is I've gone into the NPC, right? And let's say Ashara is their buddy and she's gonna follow them the whole time. Uh, I'm gonna go in here and be like, you know what? She can be controlled by all players. That way, if they're in a fight, or whatever, like now Luca can move Ashara around. Or let's say with multiple NPCs, it's like, or even just one, like, who wants to be in control of this NPC? Does someone want to be responsible for moving this NPC around? Things like that. And you can just assign it to one person and give controls to one person that, or in the sheet, sorry. Uh, be like, you know what? I actually don't want everyone to be able to control her. Just Luca and no one else is in charge of that. At Camp Vengeance. Oh, move the flag for the player to see it. Because you moved and I didn't see like you moved. Does that make sense? Which will happen when you're DMing. You're going to switch to a different map and you'll be like, okay, and you go in. And then meanwhile, they're still seeing the old one. So you've got to drag it. Yeah, this is where. So okay, so you dragged me over. So and already you could see how it looks very different from like just from player to GM. Like I can't see these little numbers that are on the GM layer. Um, I can't see their names or their health bars or any of these other random encounter people. I'm sure. So like I can come in here as the GM and be like, oh no, you guys were too loud. You now have an army, and I'll right click and go to pop up over here and they're gonna murder you. Uh, does that make sense? Just drag and select them all. You got it. So go to the GM layer. Yeah, GM layer and just drag and select. Yeah, they're on the GM layer, so make sure you've switched layers. And you can kind of tell because they're a little bit translucent. A lot of stuff in terms of like doing the module, it looks like you've got, okay, here's something. So let's say you've got locations in the city, right? And you're trying to be like, okay, there's actually, where are we? Camp Vengeance. Let's just go there. The land of Chult. Okay. So Camp Vengeance, you can pull it up and it'll tell you everything you would need to know, right? Area 1, Area 3, and it's going to correspond to the numbers so you can tell. And it's like got hyperlinked to the actual guys, which is really nice. So let's see here. So let's say you want to create a custom thing. Um, and you're going to say, let's say you're adding in like that thing I linked you that's like additions to Port Zero. Yep. And so you're wanting to add all that content in here so that you don't have to be split between a PDF and this, right? So let's say you go to here to Port Nizar in Zar in Ziar, Port N. Port Nzuzu is going to be here. Let's say you're going to be like, we're going to add a handout, which is just kind of a blank. So there's subfolder, which is self-explanatory, character, which can be a player, an NPC, a monster, whatever, or there's handout, which is just everything else. Like it's just the blank page that you can write stuff in or upload photos to and things like that. So add handout. It's always going to be default named mysterious note. Uh, and you are going to say uh, hidden glade. Um, and so right now you can do, let's say you want to be able to show this to your players, at least what it looks like when they first arrive. So you can do this hidden glade is going to look like this. And you're going to upload that, right? It's going to take a second. Maybe. Maybe not. There we go. Okay. So, uh, and here you can go, you walk into the glade and it's pretty. I don't know. Uh, good flavor text, right? So now what happens is, like, let's say we're in Port locations in the city, right? I can come in here and hit edit, and I can go. Let's see here, old city. Right before the old city, I'm gonna just enter in a new little section, and I'm gonna be like, outside of the port is and this is where I can link to that other thing. So I can do bracket hidden glade, where people go for a moment of calm before adventuring. There we go. So I hit save, right? So now my players are in locations. They're in the city, right? And so I'm in this document like, yeah, you're here and this is what you're going to see, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, what's that over there? There's like a hole in the wall of the city. It looks like there's maybe some, like, what is that? And it's like, oh, okay, so actually right there, if you were to turn right there, you're going to see like kind of a break in the old wall and you'll walk through. And there's a hidden glade where people go for a moment of calm before adventuring. And I can click on hidden glade and it'll pull it up. And all I did was put it in brackets when I read it and just made sure it matched what I had titled it. So that's how you like interlink documents, handouts, and characters and stuff. So I can do, okay, and it's a hidden glade, and I can hit show to players. Show to everyone. And now over on my right hand side where my player is, this just popped up on her screen, and it's the photo, and it's the like description, the player safe description. So, and I can come in here and I can remove, like, let's say I showed it to him accidentally, or while I was prepping, I accidentally hit that. I can hit that, and nope, I don't want anyone to see that anymore. But let's say um, this is actually the site of an evil cult, and there is an acolyte, assuming I spelled it right, hiding in the shadows. So I just linked acolyte right in there. And this is under the GM notes section. So now for me, I can click on Hidden Glade as they come along to this area. And it's Hidden Glade. And it's got a photo and it's got a pretty description under the player area that they can see. And then GM notes, it's got this. So my players are walking through the city. They're like, oh, okay, and what's over to our right? And I'm like, as you look over to your right, you're going to see a break in the wall and see like a spot of trees through there. And it's like, okay, can I ask this lady what's over there? Yes, she's going to tell you it's a hidden glade where people go for a moment of calm before adventuring. Okay, I would like to walk over into this hidden glade. I'll be like, great. I'm going to click on it, pull it up, and I'm going to show it to you and be like, you walk into the hidden glade, and it's pretty. And then meanwhile, I've got this information here where it's like, this is actually a site of an evil cult. Where there's an acolyte hiding. And they're like, okay, I'd like to look around. And I'm like, guess what? Roll initiative, because you're now in a fight with an acolyte. So by like linking all those together, it kind of makes it easier for me when I'm in the moment, because like I was able to just pull that up, show it to him, and then had all my information here, and then also click on the actual stat block sheet of the acolyte, and I can see what spells they have now, and we can fight. So now over there in their journal under the newspaper, they will see that. So, like, let's say they find some interesting clues, and you guys see this in the Harper campaign all the time. Like, you come across some interesting clues. You guys can, like, go back through between sessions and be like, where was that thing that we found? I'm trying to, like, solve this mystery of what's going on. I'm going to go back and go look at that. Or, like, if you guys, I create little handouts for treasure as well. And you're like, what were the exact stats of that treasure? I forgot to write in my character sheet. You can go back and like I have under the player area, I have a section called Found Treasure. And so I actually have a section up here called Current Quest, and then under it is Treasure. And once you guys find something, and I show it to you, like after the session, I'll go through and everything that's been shown to you guys, I'll drag down into Found Treasure, so that you guys have it there to see. So like, I'll do like here. I'll do add subfolder. Uh, Current quest treasure or available treasure. How's that? Available treasure. Yep, we're gonna not care that it's spelled wrong. Because this is all just for funsies. I'll do, I'll add a handout and I'm going to create Sword of Destiny. And it glimmers with destiny. And then I'm going to go to here and do, where do I have that? Do I have a cool sword? I've got a cool sword. Do I just have a cool sword? Ooh, let's do this one. No, let's do this one. We'll do Ice Sword of Destiny. Is that going to upload? There we go. Hell yeah. So now, they're like, okay, after defeating the Acolyte, I am going to go rummaging in her cloak. And I'm going to be like, awesome. you find the Sword of Destiny, the Ice Sword of Destiny, and it glimmers with destiny. Um, and so now, after the session ends, I'll see this under available treasure that, like, I showed that to them just in case I forget what all they found. And under the player area, I'll have found treasure. And in between sessions, I will move that down to there, so that now when my players come in, they can see that it, is in there. They can go back and look through their journal, and this section over here on the right will just fill up as they find more stuff. They can only see, like, they can see folders that you've shown them stuff in. Does that make sense? And here's a thing that you'll need to be careful of, right? There's a windmill in Curse of Strahd called Old Bone Grinder. And it's where three hags live, and it's got a very spooky, ominous name. But you're supposed to play it off like an an innocent windmill, an old windmill that's just kind of been run down and left not cared for, right? But like if you tell the players, "Oh, it's called Old Bone Grinder." They're gonna be like, "Yeah, I don't trust that place. Definitely not going in there to get TPK'd by three hags." So I discovered this in my first campaign. I went to go and I'm like, okay, so you walk in and you see, this old windmill. It looks like it's kind of fallen to disuse and disrepair. It's not looking that great, right? Um, or I'm just like, okay, you walk into this hall, like let's use this for an example. You walk into this hallway, it looks like it's this old temple or something, blah 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 blah, and then meanwhile over here they can see that lovely photo, though fortunately they can't see everything in the GM notes, right? They can just see the photo that I show them, but they can also, oh, is this place called the Tomb of the Nine Gods? It's just like, god damn it. And like usually that's not gonna matter, like that's pretty innocuous. But if it's literally like in Curse of Strahd called Death House, then like you'll probably want to change it. Like I renamed it to be like Chapter 5 Super Chill um Temple, and so now they see that. So I changed it to like Old House, and like I didn't change it super much so that like I still knew what it was. And it's just the chapter heading, right? So that like it wouldn't mess up interlinking. But like that way I can show them whatever is in that folder and it doesn't give away the whole thing? Does that make sense? So I changed like Death House to Old House and Old Bone Grinder to Windmill. So that when I showed them things as they approached it, it wasn't like, why does this say Super TPK area? Um, so you'll want to watch out for that. But yeah, they can see any folders that you show them stuff in. Once you show them something, they can see that folder. By default, you can't really just show folders. You can only show like handouts or characters or NPCs or whatever. Yeah, so what I did with the Hidden Glade is what like I do with a lot of the one-shots, right? I create a whole section and it's called Current Quest, and in there I create a main handout which is called like Current Quest, this title of whatever one-shot we're running, like Wild Sheep Chase, which is the last one we did. And in there I'll go through and I'll basically type out an outline of what's going to happen, and then in that outline I, like outline list item 1, they are on a road. They see a sheep running to them. Like, and then like I hyperlink sheep because I've created sheep already as a character, and I had him assigned a sheep token and everything, right? And then I'm like, okay, so they follow the sheep back to a tower and like and all of that, and then I create all the little handouts and things like that and characters and stuff And I have one main outline that I run, uh, and basically go down that and like since I have it all hyperlinked to the characters or monsters or handouts that I've created already, I can just go through in one central organized location uh, all the hyperlinks for everything. And I'll do that for Curse of Strahd, and I would definitely recommend you do it here too. Like just create every session, like just create an outline of what you expect to happen that session, and it'll help you a lot. So like in this one, and you'll want to do it in GM, like, they arrive at the port. And so what I'll do is I'll go down here. So port. Where's the one that shows arrival? Yeah. So they arrive at the port is one, and I'll hyperlink arrival. And that way I can easily click on that, and I just use the outline as my main document and source of like everything. And so like once I like save this, that'll be hyperlinked so that like when they're like, all right, we arrive, and I'm like, great, you arrive, and I click on arrival, it gives me all the information I need because it's all linked from everything from there. And I'm like, okay, probably next they'll probably go to, then they'll want to know about uh, locations in the city, probably. And then, or after that, um, they'll probably want to know more about, uh, if they want to know more about Chultons, and I can link that. Um, and then stuff like that. So like now I've got my outline for it's called Chilton's Handout. So that didn't work. You've got to match the title correctly. No, I've done it all wrong now. um, delete the whole thing. Handout. Did I spell that right? Let's see. No, I've busted it now. Thanks, Roll20. This will happen sometimes. I've spent like sometimes like an hour trying to get it to like forget that I tried to make a link, and it didn't work. And then like try and remake the link. Anyways, so I've got my handout or my outline. Session 1 outline. And I'll just follow this down the thing of all the things I expect to happen, and I'll link it to like important information that I'll need to know. So like obviously they're gonna arrive, and I'll want to like pull up the arrival document because that gives me everything they need to know as they arrive. And then once they arrive, they're probably going to want to know about the locations of the city. And I'll be able to pull up that. And like from there, go into these other documents. And they'll want to look around. So yeah, an outline is definitely something I would recommend. Just for like keeping yourself organized. And what I do actually at the end of every session, I'll hit edit and I'll hit duplicate. Because sometimes they don't get to all the outlined items I expected them to, you know? And we still have some left, so I'll hit duplicate. I forget where it puts it, all the way down at the bottom. That's right. And I'll come up here, and in between sessions, I'll already start planning, and I'll do it session 2 outline. But this time, we already arrived, so really, we only need to deal with this, and then I'll add in more stuff. And then I've got session 2, and I can archive this or move it to the bottom. Sometimes I'll move it to the bottom. But usually at the beginning of every outline, I also have a little section where I have my players and things going on with them. So right now I have Luca's character, please work. Yeah. So I can click on that and it'll pull her up. And like those are things that does that make sense? Um Character backgrounds. Uh Luca is a anthropologist. Grounds. Okay, so what I can do is I can come here and I can in my session 2 outline I've got my player area, so if I need to like what was the thing with their thing again? Let's see, pull that up. Character bracket. Oh, she's an anthropologist. Okay, that means she can do this. Okay, I've got that saved in her character so that I can click that anytime I need to like pull up what's going on. Like I have a character with lycanthropy, and so I constantly have to. What's the thing with that again? Okay, lycanthropy. Okay, they've got this and this and this. Just for my own ease, um, and then my outline. But I usually have this section at the beginning of every outline just so I can very quickly, so I don't have to scroll through because this gets like crazy over here when you're in the middle of a session. You're like, where the hell is all the things that I need? Um, so like it's nice having it just all right here so I don't have to like scroll. Okay, here's Luca's character and she's got lycanthropy and here it is, you know. So definitely recommend having an outline. Um, and we can archive that one. And now we're on session 2 outline. I'm trying to think of anything. What else? What kind of questions do you have? On one of my token pages, I have like so I use the random battle map, but yours has nice token pages, so it's totally up to you. But I'll have all the characters. Oops, I don't want to be there. I'll have all the characters just here, ready to like copy over. And so what I'll usually do is I know they're gonna be coming to a certain place, right? So with Camp Vengeance, they're gonna arrive at Camp Vengeance. They're probably gonna come in from this direction. I'll paste them there. Obviously not huge, right? Oh, the grid is enabled, so I'm gonna have to Alt resize. If you hold down Alt and resize, you can force it to resize to exactly what you want rather than dealing with the grid snapping. Also, Alt move will place it exactly where you want without having to disable the grid. Does that make sense? So I'll copy them all there and I'll have them all there just like kind of at the entrance of the place. So let's say they're in the hidden glade, you know, and oh, they defeat these guys, and I'm like, okay, and you keep walking and you come to what appears to be a small fort with wooden spikes around it, you know, and like a moat thing, you know, and I'll have them here, and then I'll pull over the player tab over to this page, and it'll load in, and they'll see, and they'll already be in here. So almost every page I'll go through and just copy the entire party and just copy paste like the whole group at the entrance of whatever, you know, um, and just have it like that. It's harder to do sometimes, like with the one-shot campaign. I can't really do that because every session we have different characters. But, or if things happen, they're like, oh, I'm not there. Like, I've got to hurry and delete. But, like, you know, that happens and it just, you got to roll with it. But, like, with the one-shot, I just have everyone's characters here on a sheet. And so I'll come in and, like, group together the ones that are playing that session, hit copy, and then pull them over. Though when I played with EG, he actually like found it kind of like he did it one way where he was basically like, "All right, guys, pull over your tokens," and he would just switch the map page, and then it was the player's responsibility to pull over their tokens. So you could do that because like if you see here on the right, I can as the player I can come in here and just bloop pull my guy onto the map. So you can make it their responsibility to pull themselves onto the map. I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. Oh, Okay, so for that, what I do is I go to token stamp, which is rolladvantage.com/token stamp. And I will pull up, um, let's see, I've got possible character images. Let's see, we're gonna bring over, this super cool looking babe. Uh, and I'm gonna pull her up, just pull over the image. So what I'll usually do is I'll be like, everyone, all you players, provide me your character art, you know, and they'll be like, okay, here's how I envision my character, and they'll send me their images, and I will save them here, uh, and then I'll be like, okay, I want everyone to have this kind of border, and you know, I want it red. And what I'll usually do, because I'm neurotic, is I'll actually copy down the RGB code I used so that if I have to make a new character, I know exactly how to match it. I'll just save it in a text file. Does that make sense? Or I'll screenshot it. So like for okay, so yeah, everyone shows me their sends me their character art, and I drag it over here, and then I just right click and save image as, and then save it as, you know, uh, Luca's token. And then we'll just do what? Yeah, because you've then got to upload it, so you got to save it somewhere. So now, like, what I would do is I'd come over here, um, under my library, and then hit upload, and I will find wherever I put that. Oh, here. So there's Luca's token, and I'll upload that, and sometimes it takes forever. See if that'll upload. Maybe not. Maybe it's just broken forever. Oh, hey, did it, like, pop? Oh, it doesn't like that one. Maybe I didn't save it right. It's, like, busted. Okay, so let's say, here, I'll pull this over, and we'll go, let's do, under player area, add a character. We'll name it Kari. Kari. And use selected token. And I can even, since I just uploaded it, I can even pull this over into here. Have it be like the main art. In players, I want it in everyone's journal, and you can be edited by, there you go. So now that's there. And that represents that person. So now, like, you can, under there, um, and you can, like, place him and drag him over, and, you know, wherever you want to put him. There he is. And oh, why doesn't it have it? Sometimes I swear, it, like, doesn't work. Sometimes when you pull it over, it will not actually, even though it came right from that character, it won't actually assign that character to the token. Sorry, there we go. Okay. So yeah, now that can be moved around and edited by you, since I assigned you as the editor and controller. But yeah, that's how I make the custom tokens for everyone. And then I just have to save them locally on my computer and upload them into Roll20 and assign them to the character. Oh yeah. So the jukebox, I don't know. So manage audio. So tabletop audio, Dino. Yeah, so hit add to game. Oh, yeah. And what you can do is you can add new empty playlist, and it's going to be like jungle exploring. Okay, and you do that, and again, this is where organization becomes key. So what you're going to want to do, unless it's a very specific thing, you're always going to want to hit on the loop and just make it like right now it's not looped. You'll want to click on that so it's darkened and then so it's looped. And then you can hit play and it'll start playing and then it'll just keep playing. Because if you don't click on that loop right at the beginning, like so it's always like that, it'll play for a few minutes and then it'll be silent and you won't notice until like an hour later and you're like, how long has the music been not happening? So always make sure to loop it. But now you can do, like, let's say you want to do, let's say they're in a tavern. You want a tavern playlist. And you can do under tabletop, I don't know, let's do tavern. And we want tavern music add to game. And you pull that up, And so then as you're going through, like, combat, and I have a few different tracks listed under combat. Um, I usually use Dark Continent because it's very just kind of generic, like war drums. Um, Incompetech has like some amazing sounds, honestly, just amazing sounds. But so I've got, let's put this under combat. So like let's say they're going through the jungle and it's very, and then they see something, I'll hit stop and then go, roll initiative, and then this music will start. Um, uh, Sometimes I'll mix two different sounds, like if they're more just like ambience. So I'll do like um, for head hideout. We'll do hideout. What I'll do is oops. Uh, the Mountain Tavern one actually is just very quiet and it's just kind of like people coughing and sounds of like people shuffling around and the occasional glass clink. It's not like music and dancing tavern music. And then I'll do like I don't know. I forget what the other one is I do. And I'll add that, right? And so it's just like a series of ambient sounds. It's not actually music. And I'll hit those and I'll actually play both of those at the same time for when they're in the hideout. And I'll adjust like the Mountain Tavern one. I don't want that squeaky door from the Mountain Tavern quite so loud. I just more want the occasional like shuffle coming through. So I'll turn that one down and then, but at that point you're getting really, but like that's what I'll do for that sort of thing. And then I'll just have that, they're both looped and I'll have that for the hideout sound. Or I can just hit right here and just hit. It just, oh, it doesn't select both. I thought it did. But yeah, and then I'll just have that, and I'll have different ones prepared for different situations. So let's say they're exploring in the jungle, but then I've also created a playlist for like if they come across a river, and I've got river sounds ready or something like. Does that make sense? Um, so you'll just want to like prepare as many sounds, but it's all here under the jukebox, and you just hit manage audio, find the thing, and add to game. You can also build playlists under the manage audio, which I have done. Like I've got a whole one that's like, I hit like new playlist and I call it creepy, and I've added different like creepy sounds to it. We'll put graveyard. And like I've got different. Oh, oops. You go under tracks and you search for graveyard. And then or haunted house or something, yeah, this house, and I'll add to like new playlist. And then I can add the entire playlist to the game. If I could do this right. I didn't do any of that right. Oh, there it is. So then I can add the entire playlist to the game. So I can build a playlist beforehand, or just like build different playlists for different situations. Um, and then like depending like so with the Harper one shot, like since we're always doing different stuff, like I've got like a creepy vibes playlist, and it's got like a graveyard uh track in there, and like a haunted house track in there, and then like spooky forest at night track in there. I'll just when I'm doing like depending on the one shot we're doing, let's say we're doing a spooky one shot, I'll just add the entire playlist to the game rather than just a single track, and then or like I've got like exploring in the mountaintops and like cave ones and stuff like that. So it's really how much effort you want to put into it. Like it's how much prep you want to put in. Or if you just want to, oh, I'm totally going to need a sound for that. Let me just hurry and pull up manage audio and find a track for forest, and just add it to the game really quick. Add game, and then it's over there. So it can be as simple or as complicated with lots of pre-prep as you want. So Battle Bards has that sort of stuff. So tabletop audio has like very good like ambience and simple things like that. Um, Incompetech has some really good ambience, but they also have a lot more like music, like actual um, I don't know how to describe it. It's like much more than just like certain sounds. It's like a whole like soundtrack type of deal. Where it's like, yes, you're going through the forest, but also this could be in a movie. And they've got some really good stuff. But they are definitely more music leaning, whereas tabletop audio is more ambience leaning. And then Battle Bards has got like sound effects. So, like the acid blast spell, or just arrows, or boom, or things like that. And that's where you can do what I was saying, like where the hideout you add in a whole bunch of different sounds, and you can create a whole soundscape of like arrows and swords clashing, and things like that all happening together for like a great clash of weapons and fighting. Um, but let's see. I had for the one shot we ran last with the wild sheep chase, I had dragon roar from them. Yeah, red dragon in air, strafing and stuff, and I added that to the game and I hit that. So add game, uh, and it'll just start, and I just have that along with the, like, combat. And so it's like, dun, 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 and then occasionally like, and I'll adjust the volumes. Even though half the time when we're streaming, the stream doesn't capture it anyway. It's just so soul crushing. But let's see. Let's see if Battle Bards has Dino. Do they have? So yeah, I don't know if for a T-Rex you would just want to use like the red dragon. Let's delete this red dragon on the ground. Instead of in the air. That would probably actually work pretty well. So add to game. Let's see what that sounds like. That actually sounds pretty good. And then the stomping. Yeah, that would work really well for a T-Rex. So red dragon on ground. Yeah, except for the fire. I mean, like there's different things you can do. Like you can also upload your own audio. Um, yeah. Though sometimes it works great and sometimes it just doesn't. And there's no real reason why one or the other. Cuz like I've uploaded before like very specific sounds, and like sometimes it works and everyone can hear it, and sometimes only I can hear it, and then sometimes it won't even play. So I don't know. It's just rough. It's hard because like when you're streaming, like you've got to have it like work through here or figure out another way that everyone can be hearing the same sound. So I don't know. Like I used to when I with my in real life group, I used to go to ambient mixer, where you can create custom like sounds. Like one time I created a custom soundscape for they were in Wave Echo Cave in Lost Mines at Fandelver and were like, there were goblins in the distance like doing patrols of the like corridors and they came across like a yellow ooze, and so like I added in like the sounds of like corridors and like this kind of cave sound, and then like the occasional waves crashing from like because it's called Wave Echo Cave, and then every once in a while I'd put in like some faraway sounding footsteps, and you can like change how often it occurs, and how often it repeats, and how loud it is. And then like I had to find the sound for bubbling cheese and I added that in. It's like this whole soundboard of like a perfect soundscape, and like I lost hours to this thing. But I don't use it really so much anymore cuz like there's no way to like really cast this um that I have found. But for in real life groups it works great for building custom soundscapes for very specific, like you want a like the perfect like this is what you're hearing. So, but that's a rabbit hole that's very easy to fall into. But meanwhile, if we're just talking Roll20, like and like streaming and like everyone can hear it, you're kind of limited to what Roll20 has to offer through their jukebox. So your T-Rex might sound like he's spouting flame. You'll want to go through everything with these like pre-built modules. Some of these, like the intro to chapter, like there was a lot, and sometimes the organizational choices didn't make a whole lot of sense. So, like intro to chapter one, like sometimes like these little intros would have hardly any useful information in them. And so like this one has a nice photo that you could show players, but like sometimes it's literally nothing, and then just like in chapter one you do this. And I would honestly just like archive those because it was less to scroll and search through when I was, or like I'd like copy and paste the information from here and add it into here, uh, the information that I needed. And so I didn't have like 5 million things. And it's like, where exactly, in which one of these was that one piece of information I needed? So like you might want to just go through each thing, like each section, and like, does this organization make sense for you? And I guess we can archive that or delete it. The hidden glade. Um, yeah, so like a lot of these, like I actually did away with the intros, or sometimes it would have like, I mean that's useful, but or I'd just copy and paste into the main like locations. Just because sometimes they like split stuff up so much. Expedition. Oh, see this has travel distances and navigation and information that you're probably going to be dealing with your entire campaign. So the expedition begins. I would actually have linked, if I were you, in my main outline document. Um, just have it like a quick glance, quick glances, and then I do the expedition begins. Um, and so like stuff like that where it's like information that I'm going to be referencing over and over and over again, I would definitely have like in your outline document. Um, so that you don't have to, because like it's like, why is that in chapter 2? Yeah, like rather than like there should just be like a like shouldn't that be under start here, like this is the information you're gonna need. And honestly, like patch notes and stuff like that, you're probably just gonna want to like either archive or delete all this stuff, because you're not gonna need it. Uh, like the forward, like, okay, thanks, archive that, like, get it out of here, like, so that when you're in the session, like, actually dealing with like combat and all your different information in your notes, it's like, or like, who is Azrak? If I were you, I would pull this. I would just hit edit, and take all this. Um, Here, pull up Azrak. It's like, is this stuff in his thing? No, it's not. So, like, if I were you, this is what I would do if it were my campaign that I'm gonna have to run. Like, okay, here's GM notes. Who's Azrak? It's like, why is this in its own separate thing that I'm never gonna find? I'm gonna hit Control, all Control, and then copy that into there. And now I'll just archive that, And it's like, okay, now when I pull up Azrak, like, I have that information, like, who is he, and like all the little details about him here in his sheet. I don't have to go searching through under the Start Here section for this random little tiny handout with that information. So you'll want to go through each chapter and make sure there's not stuff like that where it's like, I'm never going to find this when I need it. you know? Um, so I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like that that I'll do. Like this whole thing, I think, is just so we can show that photo to the players, which is fine. But like, if it doesn't have something that's useful, like, I would just take this section and put it in the main. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of that stuff where it's like your brain is going to work differently than the brain of the team that was in charge of creating this online module. So like you'll want to go through and familiarize yourself with like all the stuff like that. Like sometimes the really important information about the backstory of your BBEG is like in a tiny little handout under the Start Here subheader. Like it's like, wait, I feel like the information about our main bad guy should be under the main bad guy's like page, and it's not. It's in this random little document. Okay, fine. Like, but I'm never gonna remember to go searching there when I need it, when my players roll like a 25 history check on Azrak. So there's stuff like that where I would say go through everything and like archive what's just clutter, and then like condense, and then like get your outline like sorted for like, so that when you are live, because shit gets so crazy to track, you're not just a mess of like, I don't know where anything is, so that you can run more smoothly and not take your players out of immersion. I don't know. It's harder when it's not in real life because you don't have everyone like just sitting around a table and chatting nicely while you like search through your notes. They're all just sitting there on the screen like staring quietly. It's like, just hold one, please. So you'll want to go through and organize it, uh, in ways that make sense to you, and condense or get rid of like archive clutter, so that things run smoother when you're in the moment. But yeah, preparing encounters. We put these guys on the GM layer, and then put those guys, like, I've already got my characters here, like that sort of thing. And I'll be like, okay, you guys are done at conventions. You're coming back over to the hidden glade, and you walk in, and it all seems clear. And then, as you walk into the glade, you hear some rustling, and these dudes pop out, and see, then they show up over here. So it definitely helps to prepare like maps and pages with the encounters and the player's tokens already on there, but it's up to you. You can always just run it like where you just drag over the tokens of the monsters in the moment and have your players drag over their tokens in the moment every time you switch page, or just however you want it. I feel like that's kind of most of it. I mean, dynamic lighting's a whole other world, and we don't have to worry about that today. um, a lot of the extra work for you is already done because you got the module. Like when I'm doing Harper's campaign, like I'm literally just creating the whole thing from scratch, so it's a lot different of a process. If this image is like something you do want to use, most of the chapter info is already under the GM notes section, so you can show it to players, and they still, you can see over on the right, they still only see the photo. So that's nice, but yeah. Well, so there's another thing that's really nice, and you definitely should create a folder like that. I have one that's called like scene images, um, but I'll like with your name, like what's this guy's name? Rosin C. Okay, so he's here under the folder named NPCs. Rosin C. So you can pull him up. And most monsters and named NPCs in pre-built modules, they'll have all this, and you don't want to show the actual character sheets to your players. You'll want to click on Handout Rosin C and pull that up, and you can show that to players. Does that make sense? So if it already exists and you're like, you know what, I don't even want them to know he has a sword, you can hit edit and remove that photo and upload your own of like him without a sword. Does that make sense? So a lot of those will already have that, and you can like they should mostly already have them linked in their character sheet. But you can go through and look at that. It should be under player handouts, creatures and monsters, all the different, and that way you don't have to show the characters the players your like NPC and monster stat sheets, so they're like, oh, they only have this much health. I swear we did more damage than that. Did you increase the difficulty? Stuff like that. So you just rely on the handout ones to show them, and not the character sheets. But then these, so most of these you'll already have made. But if like it's an image where you're like, I don't want them to look like that, or no, they look totally different, then just change that. Like a lot of my NPCs I actually envision as different than they are in the book. Does that make sense? So like I've gone out and found specific artwork for them. And like I've come into their handout and just removed the image that was pre there and put in my own. And that's what that character looks like now. Let me show you one of the examples from Curse of Strahd. It's the worst. So there's so Esmeralda, like here's Esmeralda, right? That's the photo that comes in it, and it's like, all right, that's fine. But I actually went into her handout, hit remove, and then went and did this one. And this is my Esmeralda that I show the players if it loads ever. That's my Esmeralda. Yeah, it's high quality, but also it's like it's so much more, like it tells you so much more about the character. So if you can find custom art for like what you're looking for, like yeah, just go in and remove this like stock image that they have and change it. Especially for like characters that are gonna be more important. Like Esmeralda's like an ally, she'll go around with you and help you defeat Strahd. So like I feel like, or there's there's the artwork for, let me show you really quick. Um the artwork for Rose and Thorn Durst. So these kids, and you don't know it, but they're ghosts. Like this is the standard, yeah, the standard like artwork for Rose and Thorn Durst, right? That's what's in the module, and it's like, no, those kids don't want help. they don't need help from me. They want to eat me, you know? Like, yeah, absolutely not. So what I did was I deleted that photo. Oh, and see, there's already right here. There's already like alternates. That's a good one. Hold on. I've wait, one right, just really quick. NPC picks Rose and Thorn alt. Okay. Sorry. Oh, that's good. So, but like what I did is I went out and found different art, and I have these guys as my Rose and Thorn, because like you would want to help these kids, you know. Um, and so I went in and I removed the like default art that came with Curse of Strahd and put in this as my Rose and Thorn. So yeah, you'll definitely want to do that with some others. Like if it's just a whatever character, like it won't matter so much. Um, but for the like characters that they're gonna like interact with more, or you don't want to give away that they're like a certain way, like upload different art for sure. See, just when I think we've covered everything, there's always more. But yeah, that is the one I think, like, well, not the one. One of the many nice things about the pre-built modules is that it comes with like all the handouts for like things to show your players. Um, I think it also does it for a lot of the magic items that you come across too. At least some of them. I usually, because again, I'm neurotic, I'll go out for the ones that don't have it and find artwork for it and upload it. Just because I like to see what the things look like. But that is really nice. If you have Pro, you can actually. Oh, you don't have it? Yeah. Um, you have what's called under the cogwheel down here at the bottom. You have something called Transmogrifier, and you can pull it up and just drag from one game to another map pages, characters, handouts, everything, um, without copying the whole game. So, like, I'll copy over cool treasure from Curse of Strahd into like my other games, or a character from this game into here, or a map page that I've already set up, like with a certain encounter and like dynamic lighting and everything. Like I'll just copy it, transmogrify it, copy it from one game to another, so I don't have to reset it up. Um, yeah, but that's a whole different thing because that comes with I think the Pro subscription with dynamic lighting. Be safe, wash your hands. Bye.